Morgan Rogers, Aston Villa to Chelsea, 117 million quid. Elliot Anderson, Nottingham Forest to Manchester City, 116 million quid. Absolutely remarkable stuff. So you're saying Arsenal could have had Morgan Rogers?
Could have had him weeks ago for 100 million, done and dusted.
Chelsea might be a force to be reckoned with this campaign.
Marcus Rashford back at Manchester United. It's going to happen, isn't it? Hello and welcome to The Game, football podcast from The Times and Sunday Times. So, the World Cup is over. What have we missed back in the Premier League? The record fee for an English player has been broken not once, but twice. Aston Villa are losing big names at an alarming rate. Tottenham are splashing cash at an alarming rate. And the champions seem to not be signing anyone at all. Fulham have hired the former Real Madrid manager and Oliver Glasner, fresh from a 2-year spell at Crystal Palace, during which time he complained endlessly about the club hierarchy, has chosen as his next club, Nottingham Forest. Make sense of that. We will certainly try. I'm Tom Clarke, and joining me today we have the senior sports writer and Sunday Times columnist Alyson Rudd, the football reporter who covers clubs in the south of England with a focus on Arsenal, it's Gary Jacob, and the former footballer who played for Chelsea, Aston Villa and Marseille, Tony Cascarino, is with us too. Hello everybody, we're back. Lovely long break, nice holiday, ready for the pre-season. Really relaxed and refreshed, aren't we, Tone?
Well,
weeks since we were in this studio chatting about the World Cup, isn't it? Weeks.
Tom, this time of year, look, if you played in the World Cup, and obviously players who've gone really deep in it, they're sort of on their holidays now. This is the worst time and the hardest training. All the players that didn't go to the World Cup.
Yeah.
You're full on.
As in, because you're back with not.
We've been back a couple of weeks, and you're right into the deep training of hard graft for the coming season.
That's kind of how I feel now, to be honest. But it's well worth it, and I'm delighted to be here with all of you, because there is, as my intro says, loads to discuss. Loads of things we deliberately ignored, isn't there, Alyson? I mean, Morgan Rogers, Aston Villa to Chelsea, 117 million quid. Elliot Anderson, Nottingham Forest to Manchester City, 116 million quid. Absolutely remarkable stuff. Alyson, your thoughts on, just tee us off with some quick thoughts on both those transfers, just to get us going.
Well, they set the tone, I think, for how we view the clubs involved. So I remember sat in this very studio being asked by you, Tom, who do Arsenal need to kick on next season? What would be their marquee signing to really push to be able to succeed in Europe and maybe win the Premier League with a bit more style than they did? And I think I wasn't alone in saying Morgan Rogers. Yep. And I think you agreed with me.
Yes, I think a lot of people did. A lot of Arsenal fans as well.
There were lots of speculation and discussions. And I'm sure Gary will know just how serious it got with Arsenal's interest in Morgan Rogers. But I think if you'd been asked to put money on where will he go, a lot of people would have said, people in the know would have said, I think he's probably going to go to Arsenal. But they were worried about the various, the way the deal was constructed, the size of it. They seemed still slightly obsessed with overpaying for players. And income, out of nowhere, income Chelsea, we'll have him. We'll pay what you want.
10th place Chelsea, indeed. I mean,
Chelsea without any European competition, but with a new manager, I would suggest the signing of Morgan Rogers helps to imply that they're going to be playing three at the back. Maybe 3-4-3 with Morgan Rogers and Cole Palmer behind João Pedro, perhaps.
Interesting.
Maybe. And to attract a player who could have had Europe, not having Europe, could have had Europe at his existing club or his new club, at another club, he's gone for a club without any European competition. So there's something going on with how Chelsea are packaging what they're about this coming season. And I think you have to conclude Chelsea, having ended the season in a not so brilliant place, might be a force to be reckoned with this campaign.
Tony, I'll come to you on Chelsea in a second, but that does tee us up perfectly to ask Gary Jacob about a piece that you wrote on the website about this exact transfer. And Alyson talking about Arsenal maybe missing a trick with Morgan Rogers. That is kind of what happened, wasn't it?
Where do you want to start on this? Okay.
Arsenal were in the running, yes?
For months they've been dithering with a lot of these players about what do they want to go for them. They're trying to use agents to try to do the deal rather than just picking up the phone and doing the deal.
Really?
And if you're taking that approach, then that person who sat in the seat is going, well, do you really want me or don't you want me?
So you're saying Arsenal could have had Morgan Rogers?
could have had him weeks ago for 100 million, done and dusted.
Really?
So that's one thing. So do you really want him? And does the player really believe that you want him? And if the player really believes you want him and you lock him down like they did with Declan Rice a few years ago, then when Man City come in late, as they did for Declan Rice, he goes, no, sorry, I'm going to Arsenal. Yeah. So it doesn't matter what they do. So even if Man City try to change the deal with West Ham and go, oh no, we'll offer you more, as Man United did with Bale, offered more than Real Madrid did, and Bale said, no, I'm going Real Madrid. So it's irrelevant. Even if Tottenham tried to leave that deal, and even if Villa tried to leave it, he goes, no, sorry, I'm going to Arsenal. You can do what you want to do. I only want to go there. But they didn't do that. So unless you get that person locked down, and that's been, you yourself, don't you?
Players, been there.
If you've been there, if you're
not
player,
that level, but
if you're a player in the dressing room, you say, I'm sorry, I'm only going to this club. So they haven't locked the players.
Is this a bigger win for Chelsea or a bigger loss for Arsenal? I mean, because Alyson's right in her answer, isn't she? That everyone was going, Arsenal, Morgan Rodgers. That's a great signing. It's a statement for the champions.
Mikel wanted him. They would say they didn't want to pay the price. They only had a certain level to go to, which 80, they might have gone to 100. And then I guess I suspect start last week, Chelsea didn't think he was going to go there, because they'd only just more than a year. They assumed he's going to Arsenal. Now, I suspect, I don't know this, but my suspicion will be that Villa then sort of call up Chelsea and go, look, they're messing us around here.
Got another 17 million.
Are you interested? Oh, yeah, we are interested. And then they go, oh, by the way, we still like Garnacho. And then you can argue about, whether they are linked deals or not linked deals. They would
which
say
we might do in a bit.
Which you might do, and they might say they're not. And or they will say they're not. So then you kind of think it's got messy. And the thing is, it's not the only player Arsenal have messed up this summer. They obviously wrote today. They met Jeremy Mongo. £5 million they offer Leicester. Leicester want 10 plus a little bit more. They're sort of dithering around. Man City come and go, right, okay, there we go. Done, dusted, off we go.
Tony, just general thoughts. Ali and Gary have made some fantastic observations about this transfer. Your thoughts, both maybe from a Chelsea win, but also an Arsenal loss side?
Well, I mean, look, Gary's alluded there to going to 100 million, but, initially, wasn't it 80 million, Gary? That was the starting place. It ended up 116. So there's a
170.
117. So there's a 32 million pound difference. It's crazy. Crazy money difference. It's not like, it was 80 and he's gone for 85 with another club. It's leapt to 117.
But even with Arsenal, Gary was saying Arsenal would have paid 100.
Maybe would have gone to with add-ons,
So you think I guess that's a good question. Do you think that's Chelsea have overpaid for Morgan Rodgers, would you say?
Yeah, but in the history of transfers and record fees, there's always been an overpayment to get them. And Gary's just alluded, they wanted him. Yeah. And they really wanted him.
Well, I guess that's a good question.
I mean, not saying that Arsenal don't want him, but obviously Chelsea wanted him more than Arsenal.
I mean, the money is absolutely obscene, of course, and we'll come on to some of these fees in a second, but 100 million for a kind of top English player of a certain age feels like, is that par these days? I mean, it's madness, isn't it?
It must be par, because I did not even blink. It didn't even occur to me that's a lot of money. Right. It felt quite natural. So clearly over the seasons, I'm inbuilt with an expectation that the next transfer window will see big money, and I've become immune to it being startling.
We saw it last year, Tom. We saw this carry on last year, didn't we, with Liverpool? With Isaac. The sort of fee, and then obviously they had Verts as well. We saw these extraordinary fees coming, but it's the norm now.
But in the market then, in this acceptance of that being a big fee, is £117 million for Morgan Rodgers a good deal, or is it quite a lot of money?
It's probably a little bit toppy.
A bit toppy.
It's toppy, but the market's been moved, hasn't it, this summer by Fernandes, by Tonali, and the market has just shifted again this summer. And, Arsenal were in for both of those, but didn't want to pay the agent fee or the fee that was attached to those deals.
What do we think about Arsenal's point of view then of standing their ground on these? Because I look at it from a kind of narrative perspective and, the stance of we're the champions. And I'm kind of thinking, you go out and sign, say if they were sat here now with Tonali and Rodgers for 200 million, it might have cost them just less than. You're going, God, Arsenal, wow. Yeah. Wow, they've got Rice and Tonali, they've got Rodgers and Saka.
We did that with Liverpool last season, didn't we? We thought, wow, isn't that clever? True. You've won the title, you're not resting on your laurels. You realise this is the moment to really show that you're intending to be strong for the next 5 years. You're going big. And then they spent a lot of money on two players, which I can't say flops, but I'm going to say flops. I mean, relative to their cost, were flops. And so if you're Arsenal, you're looking at that.
Ekitike injured, of course, but yes, I take you in a
I'm not including Ekitike, and I'm talking Wirtz and Isak are the ones that cost a lot of money. And Isak wasn't match fit because he'd gone on strike, and then he got injured, and Wirtz struggled to adapt to the Premier League, and a lot was expected. And this is what happens. The player isn't in charge of how much he's valued, but it's as though you've had a Cinderella fairy sort of sprinkle dust on you. Oh, you cost that much, therefore you've got to really, really sparkle. You've got to be extra special. And they weren't. And so I have some sympathy for Arsenal thinking, well, we don't want to do a Liverpool where we spend big, big money on a player who might not actually end up looking more than a 75 million player. Gary? As if that's a bargain, but you know what I mean.
I think when they started looking at Declan, the price was probably 80. Right? It went to 100, and they were like, it started going up. And one thing Josh Kroenke said to us when he just sit down there last season, he said, if we're going to spend this money, it was about, say, 100 million was like a quarter of their revenue at that point, probably. I want to understand he's not just a good footballer, he's more than, and if you meet Declan, he's far more than just a very good footballer. And so I think that was the light bulb moment. Okay, right, I can sanction it. And probably if you're Arsenal, you're asking those questions now about the player, the character and all that, and you're asking those bigger questions about do we want to spend this? And they will probably say we don't want to also they'll probably say the players are too toppy. But then there's another part of the question we can't quite answer yet, and we won't answer until September, is that are they actually sealing the deal for the players or not? We don't know that, because a lot of this is about actually getting the deal done. Yeah. It's not just about paying the money, it's actually locking the player, making sure everything's in place, you get the deal done. Yeah.
And as you said, I'm being mischievous in the middle of July talking about, Arsenal have cocked up the transfer window. There's a long time to go. We could be at the start of the season and they've signed a couple of people for 60, 70 million. You're going, oh, no, this was much better business.
I think the thing is, we all watched the Champions League final. You could see the difference in terms of the way PSG put the ball around and also the Carabao final, the way Man City could play through them. And Arsenal really do need more technical players and more elite players. You could see to kind of close that gap. Or you could win the league with the type of signings they made last year, but you can't maybe win more than that with that. And I think, those type of players are going to, if you look at the deals they did last summer, they were players like Noni, no one else probably wanted him. Eze, maybe Spurs, but they could easily persuade him. Zubimendi's already done. There were deals that basically weren't difficult to do, Now they're having to do deals which are much more difficult to do. And so we won't know to December, can they actually do
so have they got
deals?
Other options? Have they got other options?
Well, they were talking to Barcola, but I don't know, it seems like he'll probably go to Liverpool, it seems. I don't know that for certain. And obviously their main one they really want to go is Alvarez, but Alvarez wants to go to Barcelona, and they need to wait for that Barcelona to almost effectively drop away before they
don't want to fight with Barcelona knowing that they would lose. Basically.
Yeah, I was about to say Atletico Madrid don't want to sell to Barcelona, so they need to get a position where Barcelona just are not in the race.
But there is a world that Arsenal end up with Julian Alvarez instead of Morgan Rogers.
And there's a world where they end up with Alvarez maybe on the left or on the centre, maybe Gyökeres goes the other way and they get in Bruno and everyone's smiling and everyone's happy. But the other thing is that Arsenal probably didn't bank on getting another centre-back, which they now suddenly need because of Saliba's injury. So
I want to come back to that, Tony.
I just want to make, Gary, did you know if Arsenal had a whiff that Chelsea were closer on this deal as well? Or did that come out the blue?
No, and it was I think they might know then, but it was really late. Literally within 72 hours they did that deal, middle of last week.
Yeah, because I just wondered on that. Because sometimes, I always remember the Keane one when he went for a record fee and he went to Manchester United. Blackburn.
It was agreed, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was agreed. Everything was done. Kenny Dalglish turned on Keane on it because of that type of deal that Keane decided to go to Man United very late on.
As we've ended up talking about Arsenal, just to wrap that up, you think they will now need to go for a centre-back because of William Saliba's injury?
Yeah. A right-sided centre-back who can probably play at right-back because they've got all these injuries on the right and they just need a bit of...
Arsenal fans will be absolutely chuffed, especially if you could do a long throw as well. What about Chelsea then? We started talking about Chelsea and Morgan Rogers. Alyson, you suggested Chelsea might be quite good. Tony, thoughts on your former club?
Well,
Cole
it's an
Palmer on one
exciting-
side, Morgan Rogers on the other?
Yeah, it's the same forward line. I mean, you've also got Neto in there as well that could compete with Cole
Has
Palmer.
he been linked with a move away?
Well, yeah, I'm sure there's going to be more ins and outs at Chelsea. But I mean, look, Pedro had a great season last year. He's got a lot of good goals. And he's still relatively very young. So you'd like to think he'd improve again. It's a lot of good things. I just think Chelsea have to had, and it's been so many times been mentioned by many different people, if you don't add experience to that team, I still think they're going to, because everything is about potential at Chelsea. You know, and some of them have been there, like people like Enzo Fernandez, and no one knows his future. But Caicedo's been there a couple of seasons now. So there's lots of good things there for them to have a really exciting season.
What do we think about Enzo Fernandez and whether he ought to stay at Chelsea, given he angled for a move to Real Madrid and the whole Argentina thing at the World Cup? Do you think he's going to be welcomed back with open arms?
Players always welcome back other players. They don't.
I mean more.
Are you going to boo Alexis McAllister? He was just as bad. Anyway, we've done enough. We did enough Argentina bashing on Monday's show. I've already got the half of Argentina.
I don't want to revisit that, but do you feel Enzo Fernandez has a future at Chelsea?
Well, he seems to be doing his utmost to not have one. Would that be fair?
Well, that's.
But do you not think when you then see Morgan Rogers coming in and Xabi Alonso must be a big, draw for a lot of these players as well. You think, we're heading in the right direction even without Europe. Well, I don't think he'll stay there a long time, will he, Enzo Fernandez? I think you could see him doing another season.
It's possible.
I could be wrong, but Gary?
Yeah, I think the type they're saying he's not for sale, but then the type of price moved to would probably be 120 plus now because of what's gone on before. Yeah, and that. How many clubs in the world have got that type of money?
That's the other thing.
So everyone talks about
less than a handful.
Less than a handful, yeah.
They're very good at sales, though, aren't they, Chelsea? I mentioned both the records for English players being broken. We've not even mentioned Elliot Anderson yet, other than in my intro. Does that mean less of a shock at this one? More kind of, Elliot Anderson to Manchester City, 116 million. Does that all make sense?
Look, you can't not admire him as a player. I mean, winning the ball back, you only have to look at his data on everything. It's great. Yeah. Probably the best around at winning the ball back. If we're looking at Rodri and what happens with Rodri at Man City, because, he ended up having an amazing World Cup. Yeah. But they went in early for him, didn't they? They saw him as their number one target, Elliot Anderson. So,
do we see it as a comparable move to Declan Rice to Arsenal? Do we think in a couple of years we'll all be going, oh my God, Elliot Anderson, in the way that we talk about Declan Rice?
I think that's really possible. And I think part of the reason for the price for Elliot Anderson is if you were to monitor words written about Elliot Anderson towards the end of the domestic season and going into the World Cup and during the World Cup, he was the most positively written about, spoken about, broadcast about player that there was in the Premier League. He was seen as someone who was blossoming in front of our eyes, getting more mature with every game, more influential with every game, and going about it in a very understated English sort of way. He had a sort of tub thumping performance without thumping the tub. If you see what I mean. He was, and you can see why managers would really want that sort of steady character, always playing the correct pass. Not always the most scintillating, but you don't always want that from your midfielder. You want someone who can control that midfield and not show off in there. So he would be sort of understatedly brilliant. So you could almost see during that period his price tag just going up.
Another 10 million every year.
The emphasis on midfielders is there, Tom. Yeah.
As we've
many
already
clubs,
said, Fernandes and Tonali.
Big signings for Spurs in midfield. Look, midfield is seemingly very important to a lot of clubs this season. Not that it's never not been, but definitely this year.
We allowed to sort of Garnacho deal? What would you say Garnacho's worth, Tony?
Well, it's a loan deal, so it's also different, Gary. Garnacho, I don't feel, has found a home, and I don't know if he's wanted to find that home, because he didn't really want it at Manchester United, and he clearly didn't want it at Chelsea very quickly. And he's going to a club with a manager that we'd all go, he knows his football. He's a guy that really knows his stuff around football, and he's gone, well, I'll take him. Yeah. I'll take him for a year.
But it's like a loan which conditional obligation where by accountancy the obligation is relatively easy to kind of trigger, and the fee is more than they paid for him last summer. So does that kind of make any sense?
Do we think there's a good player in there?
Yeah, but I don't know how much he wants to. I can imagine him being, and I hope he proves me wrong, just a player that moves a lot and ends up playing for 7 clubs and he's never quite settled anywhere. But you've seen moments of brilliance. He was in and out of the Chelsea team quite quick. He established himself, got into the side, then got left out quite quick.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the common theme so far.
Yeah. I will come back to Aston Villa, but I just wanted to finish because I was interested in listening to you talk about Elliot Anderson. Got these 2 huge transfers. Which of the 2 will be more successful long term? Morgan Rogers, £117 million to Chelsea. Elliot Anderson, £116 million to Manchester City.
Depends entirely on the manager, I would say.
Pick one, Alyson.
I think Alonso's the better manager than Maresca, so I think it will be the Chelsea player.
Interesting. Morgan Rogers over Elliot Anderson, despite really rating the transfer of Elliot Anderson.
I do, but you've asked me to...
I agree with you.
To come down on one side or the other.
I think it's fascinating. I think Morgan Rogers could be a huge, huge hit for Chelsea. Tony?
I'd go Elliot Anderson because I think when he left Newcastle, went to Forest, his improvement year in, year out. But again, it's a tough one to call because they're both great players in their own right. You know, watching obviously Morgan Rogers on the left side for Villa and do that job brilliantly well and get a lot of goals from that position was great. I just think there's a bit more of a player from all positions more than just one with Elliot Anderson.
But does Elliot Anderson have his best mate at Man City? Morgan Rogers has his best mate at Chelsea.
Much easier with Morgan Rogers because we know who his best mate is.
My best mate was Andy Townsend when I joined Chelsea. It didn't help me too.
Gary, just finally from you.
I'll go Tony, Elliot Anderson.
2 for Elliot Anderson, 2 for Morgan Rogers. Beautiful way to round up. I've got loads and loads to get through, so I wanted to move on to talk about Aston Villa. Gary talked about Garnacho coming in as well. We've got Johan Manzambi, 20 years old. João Gomez in midfield. Youri Tielemans has left. Morgan Rogers has left. It's quite a striking thing for the club. Digne probably on the way as well. Win the Europa League, get in the Champions League.
About the keeper.
Lose a load of top players, bring in some young players.
Could go. Yeah.
Martinez has been, last year was rumoured to go. You know, Villa had a great season and it just shows you all these big clubs that they can have great seasons and loads of change.
They're so struggling with financial fair play, aren't they? It's almost sad to watch that the rules don't allow, and it seems to be really counterintuitive. The rules as they stand do not allow a club like Aston Villa to play great football, achieve greatness, as you say, qualify for the Champions League, and they're sort of pushed back in their place by the rules. Oh, you can't go for it now. You can't spend money now and try and dominate the Champions League. No, you've got to try and balance your books first. So it just stops clubs of that size really blossoming, I think.
Martin Samuel, is that you? No, it's Alyson Rudd. He'll be delighted that you're pushing that same point, Alyson. Gary?
I think Alyson mentioned the financial sort of the position they're in, and they're obviously with UEFA and things. I think people will probably look at their deals and wonder whether they're kind of effectively doing a number of these deals to make sure
they're balancing the books.
Yeah, and I think people will look at the Garnacho and Rogers and ask whether they are linked. Now, the clubs will say they're not linked, and there's this new rule about 45 days, and there'll be an argument about whether the loan is a loan, or it's effectively going to definitely become a permanent, and it'll be all about the semantics of that. And that will probably play out at some point down the line.
Yeah, really interesting.
Because I remember a few years ago, you remember the June financial deadline with all these sort of kids moving, including Elliot Anderson.
Yeah.
So, all those swap deals in the Premier League could do nothing about it. Yeah. So there's obviously some clubs who have got relationships that deals can happen a lot easier.
Do we think the Garnacho one could be Harvey Elliott? Ends up playing like 2-3 games and then just sat there for a whole season.
It's a 10-game trigger, isn't it?
It's quite a minimal.
But
basically comes down to
Sancho and Garnacho have done the same transfers, haven't they? They're both United, Chelsea, Villa, and sat there going,
Tom, it's going to come down to how they play at the very start of their time. So if Garnacho has a stinker in the first 5 games, Villa ain't playing him.
Yeah.
If they just think, and the manager's going, well, not so sure. I mean, that's what happened with Harvey Elliott, where you just felt very early on he's not going to get ball. and he's not going to play enough football.
Yeah. One exciting thing for Aston Villa fans, though, Johan Manzambi, 20 years old from Switzerland, absolutely loved watching him at the World Cup.
Yeah.
Slightly chaotic dribbling. You're like, oh my God, he's lost it. Oh my God, he's still got it. Absolutely fantastic. I think he could fit right in the Premier League. Loads more still to come in part 2. Mentioning the World Cup there, if you are a new listener who joined us, we are here twice a week talking about the Premier League, Champions League and transfers and everything in between. Also, me and Gregor Robertson do our fortnightly show about the Football League as well. So make sure you stay with us. You will not miss a thing. As mentioned on Monday's show, we do also do a quiz question to take us into the break. Nice and easy one. Or is it to take us into today's break? We've been talking so much about Chelsea. Currently, as we stand, how many players do Chelsea have listed on their official club website who play in forward areas? Find out after the break. Welcome back to the Game Football Podcast from the Times and Sunday Times. I'm Tom Clarke and I'm joined today by Gary Jacob, Tony Cascarino and Alyson Rudd. Tony and Gary squabbling like naughty schoolboys about who got the correct answer. Actually, neither of them, but they were both kind of close. Tony, you said 12 Chelsea players listed as forward areas on their website.
50.
Gary, you said 15. Alyson went with the rather ambitious 21, but she might have just been being a little cheeky monkey, as she always is. The answer is 13. 13, including Alejandro Garnacho. Only 4 midfielders on the Chelsea website. They have got 13 forwards, though.
You might go on it.
Just keep on in there. Loads and loads of more transfers to talk about in this second half of the show. But I wanted to talk about some news from Monday. The very, very sad news about the passing of Kevin Keegan, the former England manager and Liverpool and Newcastle great, who died on Monday, aged 75, just after we'd finished recording Monday's show. Later that day, Tony, I spoke to you for a lovely piece on the Times website, one of many lovely tributes to Keegan, about what a hero he was for you growing up, both in terms of being a young lad supporting Liverpool and then also being as a pro who kind of had a similar career rise to him up through the ranks.
Yeah. It was a very strange day, Tom, because when you phoned me, I hadn't heard the news and I was driving. I was taking my boy somewhere. And after we finished having a chat, I had loads of messages on my phone from people who weren't Liverpool fans who were like, Keegan, that's so sad. Because he had that effect on a lot of people.
Yeah.
He was, I luckily met him once, done a gig with him. And I felt at edge because he was my original first hero before Kenny. You know, Keegan was one of the reasons, like the Beatles and Shankly, why I love Liverpool. So I was intrigued by Liverpool as a city and also the people that were, that
connected
pedestal connection. Yeah, that real connection with Liverpool. And of course, Keegan, because when he went from Scunthorpe, if you looked at his numbers as a player, they weren't particularly high. And there's some things I didn't, only speaking to Mark Lawrenson about Keegan when he first turned up. Phil Thompson mentioned it on radio as well, that he turned up as a midfielder and eventually played in a friendly and scored goals as a player, and they realised that he'd got something. And he was, to me, the player that played lower league football, that all of us who played lower league football and went through the system, he always felt he gave you a chance, because if Kevin Keegan could do it, a bit like Ian Rush when he was at Chester and went through the system to get to Liverpool. And there's something always with Kevin, with the superstar stuff, when he was, seeing him battle on a bike and, just running there, doing the dips, and he'd be, a bit like, who was the judo guy? Brian Jacks, who he was synonymous with that show, Superstars. Keegan was the same. So, I think he inspired, and also he really did, as much as anybody I've ever seen. And I didn't know Kevin personally. But if there's anyone wore their heart on their sleeve more than Kevin, I'd like to meet them, because, some of the things he did along the way.
Same in his management as well, wasn't it? That's why we got those moments about we'd love it if we beat them. That's why he, quits as England manager straight after. This is a guy who was just pure emotion and heart and effort in everything.
Well, one of my friends phoned me in midweek straight after, and he said that he'd written a letter to Kevin when he was at Fulham and they're in second division. I was coming towards the end of my career to say you should have a look at Cascarino. And I was out in France at the time. I'd come to the end of my contract. And he sent a letter back to my friend, and my friend's kept that letter. So I'm going tonight to pick it up, the letter, because I wanted to read it.
So you want to read why Kevin Keegan said now?
No, obviously he didn't say that option up, but he thanked him for the letter. And I'm thinking, how many people would actually do that?
Yeah.
Receive a letter and then go, I'll tell you what, because he must have received, if not thousands, hundreds of thousands of letters over the years.
Yeah.
And I just think that typified, and I'm sure Alyson as well, was part of the reason of Liverpool. I know you're mad on Steve Highway and you love Steve.
Steve Highway wrote to me when I wrote to him.
Yeah, so do you know what I mean? Maybe it's that Liverpool thing at the time as well, that people them players acted like that, really old school pros.
Very classy, lovely tribute on the Times website from Martin Samuel, Martin Hardy and Tony Cascarino. Make sure you search for them by just searching Kevin Keegan and any of those journalist names. You will find them. Let's talk about one of Kevin Keegan's former clubs, Liverpool. Interesting talking about all those deals that have been done already this summer. Obviously, big move from Liverpool in getting Andoni Iraola into the club. What do we make of where Liverpool are at the moment? I just wanted to read a few lines from an interview with Iraola that is heading onto the Times website now as we're recording this, so you'll be able to read it later. He talks about coaches being important in terms of trying to maximise the potential of every player and try to create an environment to perform better. We are the assistants. They are the main heroes. Is that talk of a Liverpool manager, Alyson?
Oh, I like that a lot.
Do you?
Yes, I do.
The beaming grin that just spread across her face. Go and check out on YouTube, any listeners, at Time Sport.
That's going to become a little mime.
A little meme, yeah.
Meme. Yeah. No, I hadn't heard that. Because it's new, isn't it? And no, well, I was lucky enough to interview Andoni, and he is genuinely not an ego. What he puts into, he's just very, very, very hardworking and loves football and has a very clear identity of what he wants his team to do and how he wants them to play, which is all I personally ever want from a manager, actually, is that clarity of thought, but a humility also. And he knows there'll be a lot of Liverpool fans thinking, well, Bournemouth, is that sexy enough a leap for us? But all great managers start somewhere before they become the great managers. And I think he's been absolutely brilliant in not trying to say, I'm the big I am here. Or you may have misunderstood how wonderful I am. He's just being completely honest and saying, I'm here to do a job and I'm only as good as this club will allow me to be, because it's a great club with a great history, and I'm here to facilitate and make sure you are entertained and that we win things. And that's just a beautiful mindset to start the season off. I mean, whether that attitude means, the only downside to that attitude is that maybe Liverpool don't spend to his needs as big as they might, because he's saying, I'll make who we've got great and I'll make them work harder. And I believe in who we've got. I mean, I probably suspect for Liverpool to be a success, they need to strengthen more than they have so far. Although if you've signed someone called Jeremy Jackett, I mean, the world's okay, isn't it? But there does seem to be a need to bolster the defence further, I would suggest, because we are still a little bit lopsided. But yeah, absolutely love that attitude.
Interesting final paragraph as well in the interview from Ian Whittle on the Times website. He's talking about former manager who worked with Iraola, Ernesto Valverde, and asked about the qualities. And he said, I think it was his common sense that I liked the most. He never made problems bigger than they were. He always understood the players. He was very firm with the things he believed in. But how he treated the players, both those who were playing and those weren't, I liked it a lot. All nice and very simple, isn't it? But what about when you're playing 3 games a week and you've got the Kop expecting you to win at least 2 trophies?
But how do you know that he can't do that?
I'm not saying he can't. Just
I mean, before you hosted the Game podcast, people were saying, how can?
People still say it now.
How can Tom edit and host? I mean, it's a doubling of his workload. And look at you, staying up all night.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to have a breakdown any minute. But other than that, Tony, thoughts?
Well, I was adamant that
you were a big fan, yeah.
And me and Alyson had a chat one day walking out, and I remember you saying to me, why are you so adamant on him getting a job? Because it weren't I knew something more than anybody else. I didn't. I just looked at him and thought, he's just what Liverpool have to have. That character that downplays a lot, but doesn't ever come over with the ego of thinking I'm here. And I just loved that about him. And I thought, if anyone deserved the Liverpool job, it was him. Because Bournemouth were phenomenal. I went to a number of games last year watching Bournemouth. I came away, especially after Crystal Palace. Now, I think I phoned in on one and said the best 60 minutes I've seen in football was Bournemouth at Crystal Palace. They battered them.
That was the 3-3, wasn't it?
It ended up 3-3. Yeah. They were 2-0 up and they conceded some goals, and Palace were really good in the last 20 minutes. But I remember thinking the way they played was so dynamic. And Liverpool got a taste of that in the opening game of last season when Bournemouth went and played there and lost 4-2. But that caused Liverpool all sorts of problems.
Yeah.
And I think his team will be a style that Liverpool have always associated with, is that they're going to go after you. Liverpool are going to go after you on every... And that's why Liverpool fans like Klopp. It's why Fergie was so popular at Old Trafford, because they went everywhere. And Man City have done this and Chelsea have done this, where they go after anybody in their own backyard. And he will do that. He will definitely have a style that will try to win game. Look, there's never a guarantee on anything in life.
But what I would say, if you want a clue as to how it might go, there would have been people saying, well, of course Bournemouth were quite good because they had Antoine Semenyo who was pulling up trees for them. The minute after Semenyo left mid-season to go to City, Bournemouth went unbeaten. Is that not a sign of a manager who can get the best from what he's got?
But it wasn't just him, was it? It was that whole defence last year, which they lost as well. And he coped with all of that at the start of last season. And people forget he started off quite poorly at Bournemouth. He had sort of, was it
9 games
without a win? But he probably needs a left winger and some defenders, doesn't he?
Yes.
And a left winger, which they're obviously talking to a few, Barcola, and that they try to get Diamonde. And I suppose what happens with Gakpo, does he stay? But they definitely need some defenders. Who would you get given the Virgil's not that young anymore either? So who would you do they need
Would you prioritise a left winger over a defender, to Gary's point? Attack.
But I think he can juggle what we've got in attack. We are quite well blessed in attack. I know Salah's gone, but
Moses,
the left. You've got Victor Munoz and to bolster that. I feel that there was something fragile about Liverpool's defence last season, and more than Jeremy Jackett, we need. I mean, I'm glad Joe Gomez hasn't gone yet. Have you heard any rumours?
No,
because we all want to see him score a Liverpool goal.
But you were sort of vulnerable to the same ball all the time, weren't they?
Yeah,
they were vulnerable to the same ball all the time.
Yeah.
You sort of think they've got to.
One standout feature for me is that the reason why Salah left. The club would have known whether he was taking the job. He was a manager that said he was he was going to be leaving at the end of the season quite early. And I can't prove it, but I would imagine there would have been some conversation about...
No, surely not.
No. But, that talk of certain players, and Salah would have been one of them, because he announced quite early towards the end of the season that he was leaving the football club. And so all these problems would have been looked at, and he would have obviously had a call on what do we do? What do you think we should do? They want to ask his opinion. Yeah. Because why wouldn't you? If he's going to be your new manager, they're going to be... We never knew about Klopp, apparently, from November till when he came out. Was it February, something like that, when he announced he was leaving? So they had 4 months of that time where no one knew what was going to be the next thing down the line when Klopp left.
Very interesting. I imagine we'll be getting more from Liverpool in the coming weeks, but you can read that interview with their new manager, Andoni Iraola, on the Times website. Now, let's talk about Manchester United, and then I'm going to talk about Tottenham and all their summer spending they've made so far. But I want to bring United in because kind of similar to Liverpool, flying a little bit under the radar, not as making as bigger moves, but they've actually made my favourite transfer of the summer so far. Youri Tielemans.
Yeah.
29, 35 million, experienced, proven, brilliant player, plays in different positions. Fantastic. In this age of, we've all got to sign 29, 25-year-olds or 22-year-olds for loads of money and not quite sure whether they're good enough. And listen, Manchester United have done that, I think, with Andre Santos from Chelsea, by the way. But I was honestly chuntering to my brother about it on the phone. No one signs 29-year-olds anymore when you know you're going to get at least 3 good years out of them, probably more. Along come Manchester United with a very savvy transfer. Anyone disagree? You agree?
Not at all. Very good transfer. And I don't think he plays like a 29-year-old either.
He was brilliant in the World Cup.
He was brilliant in the World Cup. And I still feel he's on a trajectory of improving, actually. I think they've bought someone who isn't about to dip. I think he's someone who's about to become better. I think you're right. I think he's got 3 good seasons in him.
Yeah. He's also a player that I think the other players they've signed, Bumo, Cunha, Fernandes, will look and go, oh yeah, that's good. I'm glad he's in the team alongside us. Yeah. And a player that maybe Kobbie Mainoo can learn from. What do we think about the Santos transfer though? Because I've seen him play quite a few times and I'm like, he's good at running around, but I don't know, I'm not quite sure, fully convinced. What else? There's a few colleagues on the desk who are Chelsea fans who think he's got real potential. But is this another
That's
case
the common theme.
Yeah, potential.
There's huge potential there,
right.
yeah. I mean, it's a strange one because he played not a lot of football last year. But then you had Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez. He's not going to get a lot of game time. I found it quite interesting that he was saying 29, and I think Van Persie went from Arsenal at 29. I think Berbatov went from Tottenham at 29.
Well, that's what I was thinking of.
And Sheringham at 31, 32.
When Ferguson just went, he'll make us do better this season. Let's just, don't worry about sell-ons and all that kind of stuff.
Well, there is the short-term solution as well. I mean, even at 29, but there are them that it's like, you shouldn't ignore potential. Yeah. You shouldn't ignore proven. Yeah. And if their proven is at 29 and you've got, like you said, 3 years, there's still a lot of play in that player to get game time and make an improvement on a side.
But they clearly as well don't want to overspend because they had the conversations with Fernandes as well. And obviously the deal was too rich for them. They decided they didn't want to do it. So they've obviously also got their own sort of financial model they're working to.
Yeah. And Chelsea have been this advert, haven't they, all season, an advert for how not to run a football club. So don't bank on youth. You need to mix. You need to mix up. You need some youth. Yeah. You need some mid-20s and you need some older players as well. Yeah. So it's almost like, why wouldn't you sign Tielemans?
For the money, the other thing is he probably doesn't have the legs and he needs someone alongside him to do the legs.
Well, that was what I was going to ask.
That's what I think. That's probably why he signed Santos.
So Santos does his running for him.
Yeah, I think, maybe if Tielemans goes to another club, he struggles because he doesn't have the person alongside him. So I guess someone else is going to have to
also, see, Tom, there's one big thing here is if you look at photos of football clubs of every year, if you go from last year to the year before, the photos are so different every year of how many players have come and gone. So even if you sign a 29-year-old, it's very unlikely he'll do 3 years there anyway. Yeah. So I've never quite got the idea of saying he's a good player. He's still a really good player. He'd do a great job for us.
It's interesting that no one even knew about the release clause. It had been not been mentioned at all. That and Digne, there's release clauses in it. It's like, I guess United were tipped off, but it's interesting that other clubs didn't know about it and thought, God, that's quite a good price, 35 million.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant price.
Youri Tielemans will be wearing the captain's armband for Manchester United next season at some point, won't he? When, Bruno's not in there, Harry Maguire, he definitely will. He's a brilliant, brilliant signing. Absolutely fascinated by the idea. And I'm bringing this up because I have mooted it on the podcast before. Marcus Rashford back at Manchester United. It's going to happen, isn't it? It's going to happen. Way. Mickey, Steve Holland. Hello, Marcus, mate. Come on back in. No, we've forgotten about that Ruben bloke. In you come, son. Manchester hero back, can play through the middle, can play off the left. It's going to happen.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? So Marcus Rashford became tainted by Ruben Amorim by publicly saying they're not trained. These players, the group of players, were not training properly. Did the Man United fans believe that to be true, or do they think, well? Because by the end of the Amorim era, I think most United fans were pretty glad he went. Do they now reassess the Marcus Rashford career at Man United and buy back in? Because he was beloved.
But I think
and then he became tainted. So do they welcome him back or not? Because I've heard United fans saying, oh, no, we don't want Rashford back.
But I think there are equally enough fans, as ever these days with football fans. There's some sensible ones and some less sensible ones maybe on social media. But I think a lot of Manchester United fans would look at it and go, well, people keep talking about United needing to sign someone who can play off the left. Well, why don't we just keep the bloke that we've got that we're paying an awful lot of money in wages to, rather than shipping out on loan again? Why don't we just keep this guy rather than spending 70 million, 80 million on a 22-year-old?
It's a coin flip for me. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Because I think it'll be decided whether in the first 2 months of the season, if they do decide to keep him and he plays, and if he doesn't play well, it will turn really quickly. Because there'll be fans that say, I told you so.
There you go. I'm telling you. It's a close call. In the Champions League, Bruno Fernandes goes off to a round of applause, passes the captain's armband to Youri Tielemans as Marcus Rashford scores a hat-trick. I'm telling you now. There you go. Clip that up, producer Jonathan.
I mean, we don't know what he wants to do.
Yeah.
He may not want to stay. I think there are other clubs who want left wingers, aren't there? Around Europe.
So much money, though, and then there's that price that there's got to be met.
But there's always, there's always percentages of the deals and loan you can pay on the wages and.
But there is a narrative arc, isn't there?
See, Alisson's more in the narrative arc category rather than
he does go back.
Yeah.
And makes a success.
Yeah, Gary, don't come in with your realities about the transfer market and stuff. Well, don't forget the narrative arcs, not the realities of the finances.
They're a club that could easily have done the deal in some way.
Yeah.
So they've obviously thought about it hard and thought, well, yeah, but it only can happen in a certain way, and that comes down to finance.
But they've also
and then they go out and spend a load of money on somebody else
who is younger, and they believe will be better at the long run, which is what we discussed.
But Marcus is what, 28?
Yeah,
just 28, maybe nearly 29. He's still. We just talked about 29-year-olds. We can say he's an old man finished now.
No, I'm not saying he's an old man.
No, exactly.
No, 28.
28.
Yeah.
So honestly, it's one of them. It's a coin flip whether it works or don't.
I just think if you're another club who are looking at him, you might think $350 a week. They're going to have to do a deal at some stage. We just sit on
it's like the Aubameyang one, wasn't it?
Just sit on our hands a bit longer and get a deal. Yeah.
When you're on too much money, Ozil, you're on too much money, and you end up going to stand in the club. You're not playing enough.
Interesting. Well, listen, Manchester United fans or fans of any club always do get in touch with me, tom.clarke@thetimes.co.uk. Gary, we've mentioned it. We mentioned midfielders. Let's talk about Tottenham Hotspur. Remarkable stuff, isn't it? Absolutely crackers. Finish 17th, just avoid relegation to the Championship and just walk into the summer and go, Sandro Tonali, we'll have him. Mateus Fernandes, no, don't go to Arsenal or Man United. Come on, son, come over here. Van Hecke, you could come in as well. Oh, amazing. Remarkable summer. Gary, tell us more about it. How have they managed to pull this off?
Money.
Is this Tottenham finally spending the money they have never been spending before?
I think but they've got a lot of sales out. They're going to have to. Romero's going to go.
You think?
Bergvall will go. Spence will probably go. Richarlison might go.
Jed Spence.
Yeah.
Cult hero Jed Spence.
Is it? Yeah.
Cult hero England. Cult hero.
England hero.
Cult hero Jed Spence.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. But not De Zerbi hero.
So they've spent some money that they are going to recoup in the future.
Partly. And
are they paying the wages? This was always
they're paying very big wages. Tonali's on very big wages. Yeah.
So this is Tottenham finally doing what they didn't do with Eze.
I think there's another thing going on. They were looking for a sporting director. They were going to get someone from Germany. It didn't happen. And I think De Zerbi is, he's just kept them up. He's basically saved them a lot of money and a lot of aggravation. And I think he's effectively put his arms out like that and go, right, okay, I'm in charge of the transfers. In some sense, obviously there's Johan Lang there. And he's like, well, I want these players. And they've actually gone and done the deal. And I think had they not done those deals down the line, he is a manager, we've seen it before in the press conference. I wanted that player, but the club didn't get him for me. He's got a perfect stage on to do it on a press conference if it all goes wrong later down the line. And I think he's levered his power quite nicely this summer. Tonali wasn't a cheap deal, as well as the agent fee, as well as the wages.
But Tottenham fans can expect some players to go. So just run.
But they still need a left wing out, and they still need a forward. Right. But there's definitely a load.
Romero will be going.
And Vicario will go. So there's a load to go out. So at the end of it, they might end up sort of, and maybe Archie Gray. Who knows whether he's going to stay? There's another
he's trying.
I think Archie Gray's quite a good player. But
he was their best player up until De Zerbi came.
And Bergvall. It's quite interesting, isn't it, to go from an approach of they were very much in the camp of signing good young players with potential, and now they've gone sack that.
But hang on, Bergvall and Archie Gray were the two players that the fans could latch onto as a beacon of hope in a dreadful season. It seems really ironic to sell them.
Yeah, but De Zerbi's gone in and he's found someone he thinks is more attractive, and the other go, well, hold on, what about me? And they go, well, you're not going to play. Right, I'm off. So I agree with you. I think Bergvall's a really good player, and I think the fans do really like him.
Can I just...
But also Spurs have been quite clever with some of the deals this summer. They've got matching... I think their policy this summer is matching rights. All these ones that are going from Spurs, they've all got partly sell-ons, but matching rights. The Spurs are obviously trying to, okay, fine, we'll sell him. But if the players turns out good and he's going to go somewhere else, at least we've got an opportunity to buy...
in the players they're selling?
In the players they're selling, opportunities to buy them back.
So if they sell Archie Gray or Bergvall...
My guess is they will have a matching right deal in there which says, okay, we can match that fee and we will buy that player back if, down the line.
Okay, interesting.
So one of the comments he made about Archie Gray was that he wasn't convinced because he couldn't have a fixed position. He hadn't established himself in that one position. And he's clearly gone for way more experience in midfield.
I think that's so shortsighted. If you think you're a decent manager, you've got to play.
They're good signings, though. Sure.
No, but if you've got to play the fans liked and everyone around this table agrees has huge potential, and you're letting him go because he hasn't got a fixed position. The reason he hasn't got a fixed position is because he was managed by managers who didn't do the job properly. Arguably, you'd think that if you're the new manager. So you come
That's
in and
not
you
Thomas,
say,
was it?
and you
Well,
say,
I would.
no,
But they've not let him go yet.
Purely from the new manager's perspective, this player is beloved by the fans, has potential. I will find him the right position.
But they've not let him go yet. They've not let him go yet, and they've made two great signings. This is exciting times
he will
for Tottenham,
go,
isn't it?
but I think it goes back to his end of period at Brighton, when Tony Blue's got a model which is youngsters, polished soul, and older players. And De Zerbi's like, no, I want to get more experienced players. Right, it's not working. He goes, and I think that's what he wants at Spurs, doesn't he? He
wanted that at Marseille as well.
Yeah, at Marseille as well. He wanted experience. He wants experience.
He feels he trusts experience more than potential. That doesn't mean he ignores it, but that's sort of his mindset.
And I suppose they would argue Fernandes that there's a potential to sell him on in future. He's only a young, is it 21, 22? Fernandes 22. So they probably argue with him. They can sell on Tonali slightly different. 26? So.
I think it's very exciting time to be a Tottenham fan. Let's finish by talking about two managerial appointments. Arbeloa in at Fulham, Glasner in at Nottingham Forest. Big Ollie Glasner, get me in the Champions League, get me to a big club. I'm sick of the hierarchy. Steve Parish doesn't give me what I want. Oh, I'm going to go to Nottingham Forest and Evangelos.
It's a different kettle of dysfunction, though, isn't it?
Yes.
Because,
a different kettle of dysfunction.
Yes,
yeah, go on. Bring this one round.
Glasner was frustrated by players being sold from under his feet, not being told what plans were. He perceived the club to be quite narrow in focus and just happy to stay up and not really building on their FA Cup triumph. It was the lack of ambition he felt was institutionalised at the club. And so he's gone to a club where you can't accuse them of any of those things. No. They have other levels of dysfunction.
That's fair.
But
the kettle kind of works. Yeah, I'm understanding it.
But they have masses of ambition and will throw cash at players. And in the short term, at least, back a manager in the transfer market. Whether Forest tell Glasner what they're planning to do next week and tell them the truth is another question. But he's gone for a very different vibe, and all managers have the ego which thinks that they're the ones that can tame the owner.
If Gregor Roberts wasn't here, he's here. You can't.
But you believe that as the manager, don't you?
Or you're not too bothered when you see your paycheck.
Are we worried about either of these appointments, though? Are interesting, though, going in at Fulham after Marco Silva is quite the job.
It's a huge job. But if he can attract some, I'm interested in Gary on this.
Isn't it?
Fulham's a lovely job. It's a lovely job. But if he can bring in some Real Madrid castos, they'll still be good players, won't they? Because Fulham need to sign. If he can bring them in and add a little magic dust to a club that is very well run, albeit quietly run, and I think he has something to prove as a manager because it didn't go well at Real Madrid. I don't think it's a disaster waiting to happen. I think we have to be open-minded about that one.
So if I ask a question between you asked one earlier of what do we think of Elliot Anderson and who was the other one, midfielder who went? Morgan Rogers. I was to say who was to last the longest out of Arbeloa and
That was exactly the question I was going to ask, Tony. You've done it.
Because it's a really, I don't think Glasner will last as long.
No.
Arbeloa, because of the owner. The owner is just, it could be today's okay, tomorrow it isn't.
Yeah.
That's
they got through 4 last season, didn't they?
I think Glasner was interesting at Palace because he always gave the impression he had a very high level of integrity and he was very principled in how he wanted things done. And I really admired that when he came across. But then obviously going to Forest, you think, well, this doesn't really tie with how you work at Palace. And so it'd be interesting to see how he deals, like if the owner just say, well, you're getting that player or you're doing this, and can he kind of untangle that, or does he just kind of go with it? I think he's a very good coach, but he has a very certain set system, doesn't he? Which maybe that will work at Forest. But I think like Tony, he goes first.
As I mentioned, if you are a new listener to the Game podcast from the World Cup, make sure you stick with us. We are back every Monday and Thursday throughout the season, and we've got that EFL Extra show as well. So we'll hope to see you next week. But for now, thank you very much to Gary Jacob, Tony Cascarino and Alyson Rudd for joining me. Thank you too for listening. We'll see you very soon.